Let's look at the project-based learning sheet for the chapter Run. In this sheet, we can expect to achieve some learning concept outcomes and objectives. We will deal with the concept of WH questions in this learning sheet. And as for learning outcomes, we will expect learners to use meaningful and grammatically correct sentences to describe, narrate incidents, and for framing questions. We will expect them to read text with comprehension, locate details, and sequence of events. We will also expect learners after this sheet to be able to explore the use of various question words, use question words to find out different kinds of information, and use question words creatively. Let's look at the leading question for this learning sheet. Let's ask learners to think. How can I ask questions to get more details? Can I use words differently for different kinds of information? Prompt learners to think about this with different kinds of responses. They may come up with some question word answers like what, why, when, and so on. Prompt them to think more on these lines. Now, let's look at the activities we can help learners do to achieve this learning concept or to achieve an understanding of this learning concept. Activity 1. Here, let learners learn and understand what WH questions are and why are they used. Let them go over each type of WH question and understand when to use each of these questions. Once they have done that, move on to the next activity. Here we see in activity 2, learners need to observe the picture carefully and answer questions based on the picture. Each answer must be written in full sentences. For example, some of the questions given below are: what is the family doing? How many dogs are there with the family? Allow learners to reflect on the image, understand what information it is asking for, and then answer the question accordingly. Next, in activity 3, learners will observe the picture again and answer questions using their own reasoning. Here, learners must understand there is no right or wrong answer. For example, what can dogs do? Here, learners reflect on the image and think of the dogs in the picture, and then think of dogs in general and reflect on what they do. They may bring up answers like dogs play with each other. Next, let's move on to activity 4. Here, the instructions are to imagine that learners are television news reporters. They must look at the picture given below and find details about the person in the picture. There are hints given below the picture about the person in the picture to help learners understand more about the person. Below the hints are different dialog boxes for each type of question. Learners can think about the person in the picture and answer each of these questions to help them get information. Next, we have activity 5. An excerpt of a story is given in this activity. The story is about two friends discussing their plans for the weekend. Once learners read the story, they can answer the simple questions given below. Question number 5 is a little fun. Here, learners need to think about a schedule and think about what their schedule is, just like the children in the excerpt have a schedule. A box is provided for them to think about the schedule and paste their answers. Below the box is a set of notes. Each note can be cut, and the cut note can be pasted in the box, and the learners can then write their plans for any particular day of the week. Next, in activity 4, we have a funny picture. Learners can ask funny questions based on this picture. For example, why is the cow's nose so big? Finally, we come to our creative space activity. Here, learners need to create a drawing and frame WH questions based on it. For example, here we have created a robot. Encourage learners to look at each other's drawings and ask different kinds of questions based on their drawings. A space is also provided below to describe the learner's drawings. Encourage learners to write about their drawings in that space. Finally, we have the self-assessment questions. Here, these questions help us understand how much of the concept learners have understood. And once they are done with this, learners can move on to the OMR sheet. Practicing answering on this sheet will help learners practice for their future exams and competitive exams.